The political tensions currently gripping Tigray can be traced back to the lack of consensus surrounding governance structures. On one hand, we have the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, maneuvering to solidify its authority. On the other, there's the Tigray Interim Regional Administration, or TIRA, grappling with its own approach to leadership. Their inability to align on a shared vision for governance has only exacerbated the instability in the region. The National Electoral Board of Ethiopia has stepped in, urging the TPLF to hold its congress. This move, if taken seriously, could address some of the internal divisions within the party and perhaps nudge the broader regional dynamics towards stability. But of course, this is easier said than done. There's skepticism about whether the leadership will truly embrace this opportunity for negotiation, to create a stronger foundation for peace. Civil society organisations, alongside local stakeholders, play an undeniably critical role here. Many of them have taken on the challenging task of fostering dialogue between these competing factions. Their efforts, whether through advocacy, mediation, or grassroots outreach, offer a glimmer of hope, even if the results have been uneven so far. It's clear that these groups remain central to any path forward, and it's not just about calming the leadership disputes. These local voices bring an understanding of the community's needs and frustrations to the table, which the top-level actors sometimes, overlook or sideline entirely. Without their input, any solution risks being incomplete or frankly unsustainable. So let's delve into the press statement issued by the senior leadership of the Tigray Security Forces between January 20th and 22nd. This statement, bluntly put, accuses the Tigray Interim Regional Administration, or TIRA, of failing to honour the commitments of the peace agreement. It's a bold claim, and they didn't stop there. The leadership also supported a call to dissolve and restructure the interim administration, aligning themselves with one faction of the TPLF. A faction, by the way, that has been advocating for this very outcome since its Congress last August. On the flip side, TIRA didn't hold back in its response. Their counter-statement labelled this entire press release as, essentially, a coup attempt. They accused the security forces of deviating from their mission, claiming that their actions could jeopardise the Pretoria Agreement, the very foundation of the current peace efforts. The tone was starkly defensive, describing such moves as a pathway to lawlessness and instability. Now, these statements have only added fuel to an already smouldering fire. For instance, the call to dissolve TIRA, while undeniably controversial, has deepened public concerns, even triggering fears of impending clashes between security forces who may now feel divided in their loyalties. And let's not underestimate the ripple effects this back and forth is having, not just on the peace process, but on the larger structure of governance in Tigray. History, unfortunately, doesn't give us much reason for optimism here. Similar attempts at peace in other contexts have faltered when accusations like these emerged. Mistrust runs deep, both between leadership factions and, crucially, within the communities they claim to serve. This lack of trust has almost always made reconciliation an uphill battle. And then there's the Pretoria Agreement, which hangs by a thread. To some, these escalating accusations are a sign that the underlying tensions never truly went away. They were just simmering under the surface, waiting for a spark. The real risk now is whether this spark ignites a broader conflict that tips the region into a new cycle of violence. Now, as we step back and consider the broader picture, the potential scenarios for Tigray's future really hinge on how each stakeholder chooses to act in the coming days and weeks. Best case scenario? There's this, unified call for peace from civil society groups, opposition parties, and even the international community. If leaders on both sides respond constructively to that, and if external actors like the federal government or the UN lean in to reinforce those efforts, we might see a path toward calmer waters. It's an outcome that needs, sustained commitment and, honestly, a fair bit of luck. But let's be realistic. There's also the worst-case scenario. And this isn't just doom and gloom speculation. It's a very real possibility. outlined in the analysis. Escalating tensions and divided loyalties within the security forces could lead us straight into violent clashes. Even the prospect of external interventions might fuel resistance, splintering the region further. In a way, the stakes couldn't be higher. Every decision now, by both internal and external actors, sends ripples that could shape the trajectory of this crisis. For international personnel, such as the UN SMS staff, operating in this complex and fragile environment, there are clear security measures to adopt. Testing emergency evacuation plans, updating communication systems, and, of course, practicing these protocols regularly are just some of the steps to ensure preparedness. The neutrality of international actors is also a critical piece. It's vital that these individuals maintain professionalism and avoid entanglement in political discussions, sticking closely to the guidance of security teams and advisory bodies. On a deeper level, neutrality isn't just about avoiding conflict. It's about preserving the integrity of peacekeeping and humanitarian operations. And that neutrality becomes even trickier in a place like Tigray, where the political landscape is, well, charged with emotion and mistrust. It's a role requiring diligence and honestly some diplomatic finesse to navigate without compromising key principles or escalating tensions further. So, where does that leave us? The solutions are there, but they require deliberate action. Stakeholders, both local and international, need to focus not just on short-term safety, but on long-term stability, rebuilding trust step by step, and addressing the core issues driving this unrest. It's not easy, and it's not quick. But the alternative, that's chaos. And that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, take care.